Pick up your gear and open your chests. Throw on your armor and head out on a quest. Hey, it's a brand new day.
Virgil Zoar, The Storm and the Stillness. Hello everyone, cheers, I'm your dystopian innkeeper. Today we're going to dive into the story of Virgil and Kent. There is no Virgil without Kent, there is no Kent without Virgil. Well, there are those who seek truth through ruins and relics, Kent, and then there are those who find it in the silence after the storm, Virgil. And Virgil, he was never meant for chaos. Born under the open skies of the Northward, an Aasimar touched by the winds of the upper plains, he lived a life of quiet discipline and control. Where others saw the world as a stage for glory or discovery, Virgil saw it as something to be tended, balanced, guarded, and mostly, yes, understood. Before Waterdeep ever whispered his name, Virgil was a scholar of weather and motion, a student of the unseen forces that shape the skies. He could read a storm the way others read a poem. Each gust told a story, each bolt of lightning asked questions from the heavens. And though his celestial heritage marked him as someone touched by divinity, Virgil never mistook that for destiny. He considered himself merely in service to the order of things. Plot twist. That order that began to falter the day he met Kent of Caradun, flamboyant, restless, brilliant, and impossible to ignore. Kent entered Virgil's world like a Tempest, charming, sharp-tongued, and entirely too loud for a man who had just barely survived death itself. Virgil, he had seen storms before, but this one, Kent, this one smiled. The first meeting was not romantic nor even friendly. Ken had returned from his Talona-haunted expedition as a man remade, part scholar, part ghost, part performer. And where others dismissed his eccentricity as arrogance, Virgil saw something else. Discipline disguised as chaos, grief disguised as style. Kent, for his part, well, he found Virgil's calm both infuriating and magnetic. In many ways, Virgil became the eye of Kent's storm. He offered patience where Kent offered motion, silence where Kent offered words. Their companionship wasn't built on shared goals, but on equilibrium. Kent needed someone who didn't flinch at ghosts, and Virgil needed someone who reminded him that order without passion was merely stasis. When they joined the Rivals of Waterdeep, that balance became their strength. Others saw two lovers, or two friends, depending on the day and the danger and the mood. But those who truly watched them fight understood. Ken struck like lightning. Virgil followed like thunder. And their synergy was instinctive, it was practice, it was almost ritual. Virgil's command over storm magic made him a force of nature on the battlefield. His control over air and electricity was not born out of rage, but of precision. But most sorcerers surrendered to their emotions. Virgil refined his until they became art. His movements were deliberate, his words measured, his spells unfolding like written in lightning. Yet, even the calmest skies hide turbulence above the clouds. Virgil's composure came not from serenity, but from effort. He, too, carried ghosts, not of lost comrades, but of expectations. He was born with a celestial echo, a constant reminder of what they should be. For Virgil, the Aasimars should be, pardon. For Virgil, that voice was both guide and burden. It urged perfection, restraint, control, a whisper that never slept. Kent, of course, he noticed. He always did. And in time he found ways to make Virgil laugh, really laugh, loud enough to drown that divine whisper for a while. Virgil, in turn, he taught Kent the art of stillness, how to breathe when the ghosts became too loud. They never spoke of this exchange openly, but it sure shaped everything they did. Where Kent flirted a little bit with death, Virgil reminded him to live. Where Virgil feared losing control, Kent reminded him that chaos could be beautiful too. Their love, if one insists on calling it that, was not the kind sung about in taverns. It was quiet, it was deliberate, built on shared grief and mutual defiance. They did not save each other, they simply refused to let the other vanish. Cheers. Getting thirsty. Among the Rivals of Waterdeep, Virgil is the steady hand, the tactician. When arguments flare, he listens first. When danger strikes, he acts second. He trusts Kent to handle the first blow and trusts himself to end the fight cleanly. And that's not dominance, it's faith. In Idle Champion, that dynamic is beautifully encoded. His aura supports others. His storm cleansed the field, not out of fury, but out of purpose. He's not there to outshine the team. He's there to make sure everyone survives the round. A balance of offense and protection, much like his real-world counterpart in the lore of Rivals. If Kent represents memory, Virgil represents clarity. Where Kent collects tokens of the departed, Virgil releases what must be let go. His storms are not only destructive, they're cleansing. They strip away the dust of all sorrow until only truth remains. And perhaps that's why Kent trusts him more than anyone else. Because in Virgil's silence, even ghosts can rest. Yet, there's irony in his calm. For a man who commands storms, Virgil rarely allows himself to feel one. He holds back emotion with the same discipline he uses to hold back lightning. It's a restraint born of fear, not fear of losing control, but fear of what control costs. Because for all his patience, Virgil knows that serenity too can be a cage. Kent once said, and this is recorded among the Rivals' tales, "You like the pause between thunder and rain. The world holds its breath for you." Virgil then smiled and replied, "Then don't breathe too long, darling, or you'll miss the lightning." There's something quietly radical about them, Kent and Virgil. Virgil and Kent. Two men shaped by opposite forces, one by ghosts, Kent, the other by gods, Virgil, walking the same road, not out of destiny, but out of choice. That's the difference. Their partnership defies the old fantasy trope of hero and savior. They're equals. They're almost like mirrors. Two reflections learning to stand each other's light and shadow. Idle Champions captures that in subtle, elegant ways. When Kent fights beside Virgil, they seem to sync with the rhythm of the storm. When Virgil channels his power, the air hums, as if remembering the sound of Kent's laughter. Mechanically, they're more than just buffs and debuffs. They're the conversation of two souls learning to move in harmony. Virgil doesn't crave recognition, he values understanding. He studies storms not because they're violent, but because they're honest, and perhaps in that honesty he found the courage to love a man who had already survived his own ruin. So, who is Virgil? Not just a storm sorcerer, not just an Aasimar of poise and grace. He is the embodiment of patience under pressure, the stillness that gives meaning to thunder. He reminds us that control isn't the absence of emotion, it's the art of holding it gently. When the storm comes, he doesn't resist it, he listens. He lets the wind speak, the rain fall, the thunder roll, and then, when the moment is right, he moves. And beside him, somewhere just beyond the lightning's edge, there's always Kent. Smiling, provoking, laughing, a spark in the eye of the storm. Together, they're balance itself. Death and rebirth, chaos and calm, memory and mercy. And as the story drifts into the next adventure, one truth remains clear. In a world where gods demand faith and monsters devour hope, Kent and Virgil survive not because they are strong, but because they listen to each other's silence. I'll see you soon doing Virgil's variants. There's only one left. Should be okay. Good. Hope to see you soon in Idle Champions, and in the meanwhile, as always, everyone have fun. I'll see you soon. Goodbye, everyone. Goodbye.
Pick up your gear and open your chests. Throw on your armor and head out on a quest. Hey, hey. It's a brand new day.